G'day folks, well I'm doing a bit of preparations for the next backpacking trip, and something that I get asked a lot is what I take on my trips. And one of the main reasons I haven't done a video on this topic is because most times I go, my loadout changes. It's very specific to the area, the climate, the altitude, the weather that's coming in, and obviously the species I hunt. So that's why I haven't really done a specific video, because for me it changes so much. There's not really very many times where I'm taking the same loadout each time. Even things like food changes a fair bit. So while I'm packing, I've just taken the opportunity. I'm going to throw a camera up and I'm going to give you a walkthrough of what I'm taking on this trip, and I'll give you a little bit of background around the trip and what I'm planning for. And from there, you might be able to find some things that will help you out on your trips, or some things you might not have considered before that I use regularly and enjoy. So I'll break it down for you. Let's jump over to the table. So we're only about 7 days out from my trip, and I've already had a good check on a few different weather sites. So I know that my lows are going to be around 0, maybe -1. Wind's not too bad if it stays true to the forecast. And we've got highs in the low kind of 5-6 degrees up to about 10, depending on how high we go. So altitude on this trip is going to be between 600 to 800 meters. We're well and truly below the snow line, even though this year we have had pretty low snow, but I do plan to be under that snow line. So my loadout with those factors is as we go here. All right, here we are. So you can see I've laid out most of the gear here that I'll be taking. Now, some of these things will be kind of optional. I won't take all of this, but generally this is the gear that I'm picking out to put into my pack. The things that aren't here are my rifle and the clothes that I'll be wearing, bar the shoes, of course. So shoes there I put there to remind me I need to give these a wash and re-waterproof them, so that's a job to be done. We'll start at the sleep system. So I always keep my sleeping bag here out of the compression sack. I'll chuck that in the compression sack before I go, so it will come down considerably smaller, but I've got my winter bag there, my winter mat, my Z-Packs tent, nice light tent, with its poles and pegs, and I carry a few extra pegs in there in case I bust one, snap one off, or inevitably what happens to me a lot is the other guys forget their pegs and I can help them out a little bit with some of mine. I carry an emergency bivvy, which is kind of like a waterproof sack for your bag, and that's a bit of a thing if I was to injure myself and I've got to wait for rescue or someone else does. It's good because we can use that to wrap around them, chuck them in the bag, and then keep them stay put there. It also, with a single wall tent, you do get condensation depending on where you set up camp. So sometimes if I think it's, if I'm down a river flat and I know I'm going to get condensation in there, I'll chuck that over to just keep my bag dry, and it's super light. It weighs, I think it's 160 grams or something, so it's totally worth bringing that along. Comforts I take, really the only comfort I take is my Halanox Zero chair. As I've gotten older, I certainly after a big day hiking, there's nothing better than taking the boots off and just chilling out, especially in winter when we have such short days that you get back to camp and you've got a few hours to kill. So if you can get a little fire going and kill 2 or 3 hours back at camp, having a chair, if it's really wet or you're in the snow line, keeping your bum off that cold, wet ground it's a lot more comfortable, put it that way. I'll move around the table. So the spare clothes I'll take, so this trip we're going to be 3 to 4 days. I'll usually only bring a set of socks, spare pair of gloves. My wet weather gear will be in my bag. I won't wear that on the way in. And then I'll just carry a change of thermals. So generally I'm happy being wet and kind of a little bit miserable in the clothes that I've got on, but I have good clothes that perform well when they're damp, and I'll save them as a backup in case, again, that I got hurt, or if I just get really cold, I can dive into my bag and have a fresh set of thermals there. So on the last day, if I'm really wet, I can just change them out because I'm heading out anyway. Headwear, obviously, sometimes I'll wear that, sometimes I won't, just depending on the temperature as I'm going in, because if you get too hot, you want to pull some layers off. This trip I've got 2 river crossings on the way, which I know I've got to do. So to save my boots, I often pack in these. These are, you can wear Crocs or thongs or anything. I'll give you a little close up. These are called Skinners. They're basically just a really, really tough kind of booty, but they're light. If I'm going to do a river crossing, I don't want to be barefooted in case there's fishing hooks or broken glass or sharp rocks, blackberries, stuff like that, which can really ruin your trip. So you just slip them on. It's kind of like a breathable kind of sock, but that's virtually impenetrable on the bottom there. So they're really good to have, as well as around camp. If you just want to have a rest from your boots around camp when you get back, you can chuck them on. So they're a good thing to have. Around camp, speaking of things on your boots, if it's cold like it will be here, and I want to keep my feet warm, I'll chuck them in. So they're just a little down insulator bootie. And again, that's a bit of a comfort thing, but they weigh next to nothing, and it's really, you know, guys are always jealous when you bust them out at camp. So I do like bringing those. Let's move around the table a bit further. So I don't always bring cooking gear. Sometimes, depending on my food layout, sometimes I'll just cook by absorption, or I'll have you know, pre-made meals. So I'll usually have this out on my table and just pick when I'm packing my food what I'll put in. So obviously my food isn't on the table here. I'll just put some snacks and bit in. I'll load my food and my water in just before I go. So I always leave a little bit of room in the top of my pack. Now, in terms of cook setups, I've got a lightweight gas cooking setup here, or I carry, it's either that or this. I use this more. This is a lightweight titanium bifolding grill. So this thing, it's crazy light, but that's good if you just want a little bit of meat, or if you shoot something and you just want to bring a little bit of you know, meat rub or something like that. You can kick out some coals, sit that over top, grill it off. This one's way easier to clean than those ribbed or rotted style, because this is flat. So I do prefer these a lot better, and they take up virtually no space. They're super, super light. So that's the Vargo titanium bifolding grill. That's a great little product. And something to light a fire with. So I'll usually have 2 lighters, one in a waterproof bag and one that's just easy to get to. And then I'll either have my favourite kind of jiffy fire lighters, or depending on which way you like to go, some guys like the natural alternative, a bit of fat wood, something like that. Headlight, I carry my main headlight, and I carry just a small battery backup, just something in case, as a redundancy, in case that fails on me. Staying on electronics, I carry a battery bank to charge up things, and I carry a mixed bag of leads and extra batteries. So for me, obviously, creating content, I'm pretty heavy on the batteries, so I need like leads, battery bank, chargers, and what you're not seeing here is the camera. So that is also normally in my kit. This little dry bag here has got some toiletries in it, so I carry just kind of a little bit of first aid, toothbrush, toothpaste, you know, just the personal stuff, some Panadol, Nurofen, just little cards just for that Imodium in case you do get the trots while you're out there. Map and compass, I carry a hard copy as redundancy just in case. I have been on trips where our nav systems have let us down, so I always carry that as a bit of a backup. Water filtration, I'm using the Sawyer set, and I carry a spare pouch just in case I get a rupture on that one, but generally I've been using them for years and I've never had a rupture, so they're really solid units. I carry just a little towel. That's just a tiny little towel, so you can, you know, have it washed in there. If you're hunting and you get blood and stuff all over and you've got access to a river, it's good just to have a good wash down and dry off, especially a few days. Obviously, knife. Now you might notice I don't carry a sharpener. I find if you have got a good knife and you trust it, like this Australian-made Eagle Hawk knife here, or the Benchmade knife, for instance, I can get a good solid 6 breakdowns and don't need to sharpen it up. So I find that nowadays I don't even take a field sharpener. I just go with a knife that I trust and I know that holds a really good edge, and happy days. Obviously, don't forget your shit tickets. I carry poles. Poles aren't for everyone, I know, but like the last trip I went out with quite a big animal, I had his cape, a backstrap, and his head with my gear and camera gear. And when I got back to the car, I was just over 50 kilos. Now, I only weigh 80 myself. Without those poles, it'd be absolutely backbreaking. So if you haven't used poles before, or you feel like you want to take a bit of pressure off your back, your legs, your knees, try poles. They're a really good option. Just get a good solid pair, and I think you'll find that you'll enjoy your trip a lot better. We're nearly there. Let's get around to the pack itself. So this one is the Moroka 30 custom stalker pack in the 70 series pack. So inside there will be my water bladder, and then I'll just load all that stuff in. I use the wedge-tail bino rig system. So obviously bino rig is for your binos. I carry hearing protection in there. I've got my Garmin Rhino for navigation. That's my main navigation. And then I carry, and local comms obviously, and then I do use an inReach device as redundancy, and also external communication. So A good option would be the Garmin Mini if you wanted to go this line. I use this for a few other things as well, like motorbiking, four-wheel driving, etc. So for me, it's a good unit, but it's a bit bigger and heavier than the InReach. If I was starting out fresh right from the start, I'd probably go with the little InReach Mini 2 and the Rhino. That'd be a great combination that works well together. And then on my pack, I just have a few little extras. So I've got a meat bag and a meat sling that's built into that. I carry a few little camera clips, and I usually, if I set off, I usually bring an iced coffee with me. So I carry an Algene drink bottle holder on the side there, but the pack's pretty much stock standard apart from that. And that is about all I'll be taking on this trip here. So we will be rolling the cameras on this trip, so down the track you'll probably see an edit there. There's good 4 or 5 of us. We're going to a spot we haven't been to before. We've been nearby, we've seen it from the next gully over, and it looks pretty promising. We know there was a lot of deer in there at this time of year from a few weeks ago when we kind of hunted around the edges of it. So we're going to go back and explore it a bit more with a few boys. I'm going to bring the camera and see if we can get a few sambar on the deck, so it should be good. Anyway, that's the breakdown. Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.